Today on Legally Us, Netflix is fighting Baby Reindeer's real-life Martha, while David Beckham and Mark Wahlberg settle. Plus, Lisa and Lenny Hochstein are fighting over Fendi. Christine Quinn alleges she's being spied on, and Katherine Dennis wants a jury trial. We've got that plus so much more in today's Legally Us. Hey everyone, and welcome to Legally Us. I'm Christina. That's Nima Rahmani, President and CEO of West Coast Trial Lawyers. Hey Nima, how are you?
Doing great, Christina. How about you?
I'm doing good. Lots to get to this week, as always. So let's kick it off with Netflix, because they have denied Fiona Harvey's lawsuit accusations about Baby Reindeer. They said, "We intend to defend this matter vigorously and to stand by Richard Gadd's right to tell his story." So Baby Reindeer, of course, was inspired by Gadd's alleged experiences as a stalking and sexual assault victim. Harvey identified herself as the inspiration for Martha during an interview with Piers Morgan Uncensored last month, denying the accusations that she stalked him. She filed a lawsuit against Netflix seeking $170 million in damages. And court documents state the lies the defendants told about Harvey to over 50 million people worldwide include that Harvey is a twice convicted stalker who was sentenced to 5 years in prison, and that Harvey sexually assaulted Gadd. Her complaint continues, saying, as a result of defendants' lies and utterly reckless misconduct, Harvey's life has been ruined. Simply, Netflix and Gadd destroyed her reputation, her character, and her life. So does this woman have really any leg to stand on in this $170 million lawsuit?
Christina, we've seen some big verdicts in defamation cases recently, of course. Johnny Depp being the one that we cover the most, but there was also Alex Jones and some of the Donald Trump lawsuits that were filed by Jean Carroll. But 170 million seems like a lot in this case, and this is why. Harvey really outed herself. I mean, that was the issue here, right? Now, there were some, let's call them folks that were stalking social media, and I think they were able to put two and two together. There was some sexual innuendo in Baby Reindeer about hanging the curtains, and there were some tweets that Harvey had sent. But I think really the reason everyone knows who she is because she came out and gave that interview and didn't do so anonymously. Now, when it comes to defamation, of course, if Netflix said something unlawful or untruthful about her, that would be actionable. And if they used her name without her consent, I think the biggest issue that Netflix is going to have is when they started the show, they said, this is a true story. So if anything's untrue that was said, then maybe, just maybe she has a claim.
Maybe she has a claim, but at $170 million, it seems a bit excessive. And I feel like Netflix would do their due diligence in making sure that the story was factual before putting it out. Because I remember Sofia Vergara played the drug lord on Netflix a couple months ago, and her and that family came forward, and it seemed like they settled. Do you think that this woman will get some money from Netflix, or do you think that this is going to continue going forward?
I think she will get some money. Netflix will pay, but they're not going to pay anywhere near the amount that she's asking for. It's going to be a nominal amount because really, what were the damages before she came forward? I think that's going to be the issue in the case. Even if there was something that was not truthful, and of course, Netflix is a massive company with a large team of lawyers, both in-house and outside, and they know they're going to be targets for these types of lawsuits. So before they do anything, they make sure that everything is run by their legal and standards department to make sure that these types of lawsuits don't happen. So I do expect a settlement. These types of cases rarely, if ever, make it all the way to jury trial. It's not going to be anywhere near the more than $100 million Harvey is asking for.
Yeah. I mean, is she looking for a bigger payout by going to Netflix and not going after Richard Gadd? Would that be a totally different type of lawsuit, I guess?
Definitely. If you are a civil plaintiff, you want to go after the deep pocket because getting a judgment doesn't mean anything. You know, we talked about Alex Jones, for instance. He got hit with more than $1 billion judgment, but if you don't have the ability to pay, it doesn't matter. So a judgment is worthless if there's not someone that can actually pay the judgment. So Netflix obviously has lots of money. I'm sure Gadd isn't doing too badly himself, but he's certainly not in a position to pay $170 million where Netflix is.
Definitely not. All right. Well, David Beckham's company, DB Ventures, filed a lawsuit against the fitness franchise F45 Training, which Mark Wahlberg partially owns, back in May of 2023. So the soccer star claimed in court documents that he'd been duped into signing an endorsement deal with the company and never received the $10 million he was offered in contract negotiations. We'll fast forward to recently because F45 Training and DB Ventures announced that they had reached a resolution and David will remain as an investor in the company. They said, "We are pleased to have settled this issue and to retain our investment in F45 and wish the team all the best in the future." So what do we think happened here? Do we think that he got his full $10 million? We talked about this story a little while ago, and it seemed like it was messy, and it seemed like just David wasn't getting paid.
Well, really, when we talked about it, we thought that it was going to settle. These types of cases rarely go to trial because celebrities hate trials. We, of course, love it on Legally Us because it gives us something to talk about. But as far as putting out their dirty laundry, whether it's their personal or professional or business affairs before a judge and jury, celebrities usually try to avoid that. And in this particular case, it was always going to come down to the contract itself. What does the agreement say? Was David Beckham owed $10 million? In which case, he was going to win. Or was it something else? Was Mark Wahlberg, did he have a defense? Or was some sort of payment made? Or really, did Beckham breach? Did he not perform what he was supposed to do under the agreement, which would have excused the company from paying? So really that agreement was going to control the language in there, was going to be dispositive. So obviously we don't have that. We don't know what was paid because these settlements are always confidential. They're not filed with the court. All we get is a notice of dismissal and some sort of vague statement saying the parties have resolved the matter.
Interesting. Well, seems like everybody's happy because he's remained on as as a partner in the company, so it seems like everybody is good. They're not good over in Miami with Lenny Hochstein because he denied Lisa's claims that he refused to reimburse her moving expenses. This just gets crazier. Instead, he claims he requested proof of payment of the expenses, which she allegedly has not provided. He and his legal team also argued that none of the furniture Lisa took should be deemed reasonable because the apartment she rented was allegedly furnished. Lisa allegedly took a Fendi foyer table costing $35,000, not to use as a dining table, but to use as a similar foyer table at her new apartment. She allegedly took every single plant, including a Christmas tree from inside the house and 90% of the artwork, leaving Lenny with only 3 out of the 25 pieces. Oh, God forbid. Lenny also accused his estranged wife of taking a waffle maker that he used every weekend to make either waffles or French toast with their kids. And in Lenny's latest court filing, he accused his ex of intentionally giving his expensive wine bottles to her boyfriend, although Lenny said he was able to retain most of the wine thereafter. She allegedly managed to take many bottles for herself, including an irreplaceable bottle from 1947 and all the Dom Perignon and Cristal. In total, Lenny said that he had to spend $200,000 to replenish all the items his estranged wife allegedly took. This just gets so ridiculous to me. I can't even say it without laughing because this is what people are fighting about. But when it gets, I mean, we're 2+ years into this, and now we're literally fighting about, $35,000 Fendi tables.
Yeah, this is really ridiculous. And like you said, Christina, we're covering every week, and now we're getting into the minutia of furniture, Christmas tree, the waffle maker, for God's sake. So I think what the court needs to do is appoint someone to oversee all this, because judges, obviously, they have a lot of cases that they're dealing with, and they can't deal with Lisa and Lenny's weekly drama every week. So sometimes what will happen is if a case gets nasty, the judge will say, okay, I'm going to appoint a referee or a receiver or someone that's going to step in, usually a retired judge, to deal with the daily disputes that are happening in this case. And I think that's what needs to happen here because it's really ridiculous. And I'm sure the lawyers are loving it because they're billing hourly and making tons of money. But really a divorce should not be this toxic, should not be this nasty as we're seeing in this particular case.
Are you surprised that it's taken that long for a judge to step in and do, hire a referee? It even brings me back to like Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. Was that ever an option for them as well?
It was. Brad and Angelina was a little different because they ended up going the private arbitration route. So they decided, hey, we don't want to be in court because we don't want anything to be public. We're going to hire an arbitrator to oversee everything. Now, Angelina ended up regretting it, and she thought that the arbitrator sided with Brad, and that ended up being its own issue. But here we're talking about a judge, and whereas a private arbitrator might have all the time in the world to work on a case because he or she is going to get paid hourly for the time they put in. That's just not how it works with judges that may have hundreds or more cases to deal with at one time. And they can't be dealing with Lenny and Lisa's
Right.
drama on a daily basis. But a referee or an arbitrator might be able to do so. So I think that's what needs to happen here. The parties clearly have money. If we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of wine,
Yeah.
let's get someone that's going to be involved on a daily basis. If you have a dispute, you need to file all these motions with the court. You pick up the phone, call the referee, have him or her deal with it.
Got it. All right. Well, moving on to Christine Quinn, because she accused her estranged husband, Christian, of violating her restraining order against him by sending a stranger to spy on her. So her attorney filed a notice revealing that security cameras caught a strange man trespassing on her property back on May 27th. 9 days later, that man was spotted with her ex following a hearing in LA's criminal court on June 4th. So during the hearing, a judge issued a criminal restraining order against this person on charges of domestic violence and gave specific orders not to have any contact with Christine or their 3-year-old son, Christian, and to stay 100 yards away from them and their once shared Los Angeles home. Now, Christian did not enter a plea as he stood at the podium. His attorneys requested another hearing on July 26th. Now, Christine alleges that the man was located in an area of the property that was not available to the public. Flash forward to Christian's arraignment on June 4th, and after Dumont left the court, he was photographed by an employee of Us Weekly, which published the photos in an article later that afternoon. The filing stated sharing 2 photos of Christian and his entourage, which included that man that Christine recognized as the trespasser from days prior. At the moment, Christine will not pursue contempt charges, but reserves the right to do so should these willful violations resume. So is Christian in a lot of trouble? And because it seems like that maybe he had hired this person to spy on her. Maybe it was a friend that dropped by the property. What's the kind of their strategy going forward?
I'm really surprised at this case, Christina, and this is why. If you believe Christine Quinn and you believe that Christian threw a bottle at her and her 3-year-old child, and that he's repeatedly violated the restraining order, this isn't the first time.
Yeah.
He should have been arrested and been charged with a felony by now. And really, again, obviously, it seems like a strong case if you believe Christine. Apparently, there was an independent witness, the nanny to all this. And the fact that Christian's only been charged with a misdemeanor, and the fact that he hasn't been arrested or charged for multiple violations of this restraining order leads me to question the legal strategy by Christine and her team here. Now, maybe she's pulling punches and isn't trying to be as aggressive as she can be. Maybe she doesn't want it to be a Lenny and Lisa situation, but I'm really surprised how much Christian has gotten away with in this case. Again, if you believe the allegations on Christian's side.
Right. And why do you think that she's not pressing these charges or not going to the police about this, and why he hasn't been arrested?
Well, apparently she has, because some charges were filed, and we're in LA and our district attorney can be pretty soft, but this, in my opinion, should have been a felony. Again, I believe victims of domestic violence. I do believe Christine, and I don't know whether it's something that she said or she didn't say or her lawyer didn't do in this case, but I'm really surprised at the outcome here. And maybe things will escalate and we will see more serious charges and Christian actually being arrested and charged with these repeated violations of the restraining order. But so far, this case has been a little bit of a head scratcher for me.
Yeah, definitely. And then finally, an attorney for Katherine Dennis requested a jury trial weeks after the Southern Charm alum was arrested for DUI in South Carolina. So a hearing for the case was scheduled for June 4th, and a spokesperson for the Goose Creek Sheriff told Us Weekly that the reality star did not appear in court. Through attorney, a continuance and jury trial was requested. So what exactly does that mean? So she was taken into custody, as we know, by police on May 20th after she was involved in a 3-car collision. The authorities noted that she had glossy eyes and an odor of alcohol coming from her when they responded to the scene. So is it a bad look that she did not show up to this court hearing?
Well, it depends on the state, but in many states, we talked about misdemeanors and felonies.
Yeah.
For less serious charges like misdemeanors, the attorney can appear without the defendant. So the attorney can handle those types of hearings because, again, they're less serious. That's how it works in California. Now, obviously, for a trial, the defendant has to show up. This just applies to pretrial proceedings. So It's too early to tell whether Katherine intends to take this case all the way to trial. It doesn't seem like a good trial case, or this is something that is just being continued while the lawyers work out some sort of plea deal.
Got it. All right. Well, lots going on this week. Nima, thank you for breaking it all down as always.
Of course, Christina. See you next week.
See you next week.